Hello and welcome to the next instalment of the Healthy Eating. Today we'll be looking at doing a Thai squash soup with fresh chilli and coconut milk. Very healthy, very simple, so we'll dive straight into it. Action. Right, so we've got all our meat on class together. So for this you'll need red chillies, 1 onion, a lime, butternut squash and coconut milk. You can add lemongrass into this as well, that is optional. But what we'll do, let's go through the butternut squash first. So, peel your butternut squash, then cut it in half. It came like this. So what I've done is I've peeled it, I've cut it in half so it makes it easier to prepare. And then what you're left with, you cut the bottom off. When you do the top and tail, you take the bottom off so you expose the seeds, okay? Then with a spoon, you scoop out the seeds. You can reserve these seeds as a garnish, and you can put them in the oven for, I don't know, say 5 minutes on about 180 with a little bit of oil, and that'll just toast the seeds for you lovely, and you can use that as a garnish to go over the top of your soup, or even just as a healthy snack. Don't waste them, they're really tasty, so you can use that as a healthy snack as well. So the important thing to remember is try to use every part of the ingredient that you possibly can, so as you're not wasting it. Okay. So butternut squash, hold it nice and firm. Cut it into about 1 centimetre dice. Okay. So you've got your slices. Cut it like so. Dice. Right, okay. And I'll prepare that properly in a second. Then you'll finely dice your onion. So remember to take off the bottom of your onion, leave the root as it is. So if you cut the root, your onion will fall apart when you come to dice it, okay? Go over this for you. So then with your onion, to finely dice it, keep those fingers tucked in, so it's like almost like a claw. So you'll never, if you slip, you don't chop your fingers off. Then with your knife, cut about 3/4 of the way through the onion at about 3mm intervals. So you're kind of opening the onion up like so, okay? Then, with your fingers tucked in, angle your knife down when you do this, because if you slip, you're not going to cut your fingers, okay? If you have your knife angled flat and you slip, potentially you could cut your fingers, okay? So again, we cut about 3/4 of the way through the onion to create a cross section, okay? That's what we're looking for. Then nice slices, and that way you get a lovely fine dice of onion, okay? Right, so the onion. Just take your time. Put that in a dish. Right, okay, so the next thing to look at is your lime, okay? Thing to remember when you're trying to extract the juice from a citrus fruit, whether it be a lemon or a lime, what I do is I just put some pressure on and roll it, okay, on your work surface. What that does, that agitates all those pockets inside of the lime or the lemon, or the orange in actual fact, so you can extract more juice from it, okay? So that's that ready for juicing, and then you've got your chillies. Now, the thing to remember with chillies is the flesh isn't necessarily spicy, that's more flavour. The thing that gives it the spice is the actual seeds within the chilli, okay? And there's lots of different ways where you can extract the seeds. I'm not going to use the seeds in this. It's down to personal preference. I do like a bit of spice in my food, but these chillies are quite warm, okay? Little thing to remember, you can actually take them out by taking the top off, cutting them down the middle, and then using a small knife to take the seeds out, okay? Nothing wrong with doing that. What I tend to do is roll it between my fingers, and what that does, that dislodges a lot of the seeds, okay? And then, I don't know if you can hear that, a lot of the seeds have come away. Another thing you can do as well, wear gloves if you need to, because obviously you will get chilli on your hands, and if you touch your face at any point, it will burn. So just bear that in mind as well. So there we go. So we've got our seeds. And just knock them on your workbench. You can see they're coming out the chilli now. Okay. That's most of them. It won't take all of them out, it'll just take most of them. Okay. So now what we'll do, starting from the thin end, very thin slices, because that can be used to garnish on top. There we go. That's used for our garnish. Then what we'll do is we'll cut the chilli down the middle. You can see all those seeds have come out now, so you've got no seeds to contend with. Then what we'll do, we'll cut slices. Turn it over. There we go, some nice thin slices. There we go, and that's your chilli prepared, okay? So that's all your preparation done. So the next thing we'll do, we'll pan over to the stove where we'll actually do some, start the cooking process, okay? Right, so we're at the cooking stage now. So what we're going to do is just heat up a little bit of rapeseed oil very gently. And then what we're looking to do next is we're going to be adding our onions and lemongrass, if that's what we're using, and our chilli, or most of our chilli, to start infusing that oil with those flavours, okay? So let's get our onion in the pan. So at this stage we're just sweating off the onions, okay? So sweating is cooking without colour, so we don't want to have any colour on it at all. Okay. So you can see I've got my split dish. In this side I've got a small amount of chilli, that is for garnish, okay? So over here we'll put our fresh chilli in there. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is just going to leave that sweat for a couple of minutes. Then we're going to add some water to it, okay? You can either add water or vegetable stock. I'll be adding some water to it at this stage because we'll be adding coconut milk at the end. Obviously we're looking at a healthy option, so water's probably better than adding any stock. However, you can if it's personal preference, okay? So I'm just going to turn that up slightly. Just sweat that off. It's a very quick and easy recipe. We'll get everything into the pan, and then you leave it cooking for about 15-20 minutes, just until the butternut squash is nice and soft. And then once we've got everything in the pan, I'll leave it cook and we'll cut back, and then we'll see how we can blend it, okay? So what you'll need for the blending process is either a stick blender or a food processor, and a sieve, if you haven't got, obviously, commercial equipment at home, which most of us won't. So there we go, so we'll just turn that down a bit. See that? Just starting to infuse now, that's lovely. Remember, don't stir things too much. If you stir them too much constantly, you won't actually have, it won't actually cook. So you just need to let it do its thing for a minute or two. I'll keep on saying, let those flavours get to know each other. So they're lovely. And what we'll do is just add a splash of water, which we don't want them to catch. There we go. Turn that up slightly, let it cook. Then what we'll do, we'll add our butternut squash. There we go. So our butternut squash can now go in. This recipe will probably make 4 decent portions of soup, okay? Right, so I'm just going to stir that through. Let's say you can use lemongrass in here as well, but it's not always readily available. I tried to get hold of some and I couldn't get some today, so you can buy some from the supermarket, which is dried. Perfectly acceptable to use that, okay? So just enough water to cover the majority of the butternut squash. And then what we'll do, we'll bring that to the boil. And then we'll turn it down to a simmer for approximately 15 minutes, okay? And that's where we'll turn the heat up a bit, and that's when we'll cut back, and then we'll look at blending it up, okay? Right, so we've got our soup. Our butternut squash has been cooked out beautifully now. So what we'll do is take it off the heat. You can see that there, that's all broken down beautifully. So what we'll do, we need to put it into our blender, okay? So what we'll do, if you've got a stick blender at home, that's absolutely fine to use. Just remember to do this safely, okay? So what I'll do, I'm using a ladle to pour all that in, just so you don't splash hot liquid and hot butternut squash everywhere, okay? So remember, you want to get all of that out of the pan. So pour the liquid in. And then what we'll do is we're going to blend this soup up, okay? You probably won't get it completely smooth at this point, but what we'll do, we'll blend this up and then we'll pass it through. Normally we do it through something called a chinois, which is a conical strainer, but at home you'll have a sieve, so we'll do it through a sieve, just so you can see the result that you get, okay? So I'm just going to blend this up on our food blender, and then we'll come back and then I'll show you how to pass it through to get it nice and smooth. Right, so we've blended up our soup now. That's nice and it's quite smooth actually. You'll notice that I haven't put any salt or any sort of seasoning in there. The reason for that is you always do it at the very end, because as you're going through the cooking process, it can change the flavour. So you need to taste it first, and then you can put it. You can change the seasoning. So it's blended up quite nicely actually. This has. There we go. So we've got our soup there. Notice I've strained it into a clean pan. So you can see I've caught some of the chilli that hasn't blended down properly. I mean, you can at this stage, you could actually put these bits of chilli into the soup, to be honest, because it will give flavour. In actual fact, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a few bits in there, okay? You can see the consistency. It's a lovely sauce consistency. If you find your soup is a little bit on the thick side, you can always add a splash more water or a bit more stock to it, okay? There we go. So what we'll do now, we're going to put this back on the heat. I'm just going to turn it round so you can see what's going on the pan, okay? So you can see the soup is back on the heat. We're just going to bring this back to the boil. I added my my lime juice in there before I blended up the soup. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. So we'll add the lime juice, then we've added, then we boiled it down, and then we've blended it up. Okay, you can see it's lovely and smooth, got a nice consistency. So we're just going to bring that back to temperature. Then we're going to add our coconut milk, okay, which I'll bring over. So 125 millilitres of coconut milk, okay? So I'm going to put, there we go. So that was 125 ml. There's a bit of water to go in there as well. Okay, so we'll add that to it. And what this coconut milk will do, it'll actually add a bit of sweetness to the soup as well. So as that heats up, you can see it's more of a cream consistency. So we're going to heat that up, bring it to the boil. Look at that. Made it a bit smooth, a bit runnier as well. Okay, so before you add your coconut milk, it does need to be slightly thick, and then as the coconut milk melts into your soup, it will make it a beautiful, velvety, shiny soup. Okay, so just bring that back to the boil. I'll just turn the heat up slightly. And you can serve this with a nice piece of crusty bread, and we'll garnish it with some fresh coriander. So once this comes back to temperature, I'll leave this come to the boil, then we'll plate up, okay? So I'll pan back over to the plating up, and we'll finish this off. Right, so now we're going to look to plate up, okay? So our soup is at a nice temperature. We've got our chilli that we had earlier to garnish, and we've also got our fresh coriander to garnish as well. You can actually include some coriander into your soup and actually blend that up when you come to blend the soup, and you'll get a nice fresh coriander flavour coming through there as well, okay? So here we go. So there's our lovely soup, ready to plate up. So let's pour some into the bowl. There we go, there's our soup. And what we'll do, we'll add a piece of fresh chilli. It's a very simple soup to make, but also delicious. There we go. And there's your fresh Thai butternut squash soup with fresh chilli and coriander. Absolutely delicious.